So let's spend a few minutes talking about innovation. Companies love to talk about innovation because every company and every organization wants to be better tomorrow than they are today. But before we can dive into innovation, first we need to address this entire idea of change management. So physics tells us in order to get from point A to point B, in order to be innovative, in order to change, that we would like it to be a straight line. Those of us who work in organizations realize that it is rarely to never a straight line. Instead, we're usually at point A and we want to move to point B, so we start moving towards point B and then something causes us to regress. We move back towards our starting point instead of our end point. Hopefully over time, we eventually get to point B, but the process looks more cyclical like this instead of a straight line. Well, there's lots of models that explain why this happens. A very simple one is Lewin's change model, and Lewin basically told us that in order for an organization to change, we first have to unfreeze the organization. So we need to make them believe that whatever the processes are, whatever logic they have for the way that they do things, needs to be changed. And once you warm them up to the idea that this change is a good thing, then you can make whatever necessary changes. And then, afterwards, refreeze them in that and let them know this is the way we do things now and here's why, and that becomes the new norm. Unfortunately, in an organization, anytime you want to make additional changes in the future, you have to go back through this process of unfreezing them, changing them, and refreezing them. And of course, that's talking all about psychological change. So if we can just make people within the organization believe that they need to change, then whatever change we need to make will be successful, right? Well, not quite, unfortunately. Because we know that to get from point A to point B and changing an organization is not a straight line, but generally it's not a solid line either. It's more of a dotted line that stops and starts, and we get part of the way there, and then before we know it, we're back where we started, and a lot of the change never takes. All right, so what's your point? We're supposed to be talking about innovation. Well, the point is this. There are lots of different types of change within an organization, and a really good example is an executive team that I was working with. The head of the company said, "We have such great people, I believe in our people, we have great managers, we can do any kind of business that we want, I'm totally confident of it." And one of the other executives turned to him and said, "Yeah, that's great, but I'm not sure that we can run a Starbucks." It's funny, and while we all laughed, the truth of the matter is that the other executive was pointing out a very intuitive part of organizations, and that is the fact that if you're not in the Starbucks business, if you're not a barista or brewer of any point or any type, then you have no business being in the Starbucks business. And in order to be in the Starbucks business, that requires what we call revolutionary change. Two large types of change in the organization: revolutionary change and evolutionary change. And the Burke-Litwin model does a really good job of explaining how these types of change affect the organization. So if you could picture an organization with all these little connected parts, boxes being parts of the organization, then know that they each affect each other in some way. And eventually that's how you get an entire organization to change. Well, the revolutionary change portion of an organization are the top three boxes, or really top four boxes when you include the external environment. And that is when we're talking about large levels of change that happen very rapidly in an organization. So that is a change in a CEO, or a hurricane comes through and wipes out your business. Those are revolutionary pieces that happen in organizations. But more so when we're talking about businesses, we're talking about the evolutionary level, which is where change happens every day. So you're talking about individual needs and values of your workforce, management practices, etc. And those are the things that generally change slowly over time until they eventually move your organization from point A to point B. So you need to ask yourself, what business are you in? If you're not in the Starbucks business, then you probably are going to have a very difficult time getting into the coffee business. So where you are now and where you want to go, the gap between those things is your ability to assess your capabilities, skills, capacity, business context, and the structure that you have for your organization in order to get where it is that you want to go. So at GGR, we talk a lot about it's not just where you are today, it's where you want to go tomorrow, but it's where you are today and where you're able to go tomorrow. So it's about creating a sustainable structure which supports the innovation that you want to create within your organization. So the next time that your executive team tells you that we've got great managers and we can do anything, and another replies, "Yeah, but I'm not sure we can run a Starbucks," chances are you shouldn't, unless you want to completely redefine your business model and the structure that supports that. So to discuss sustainable innovation and change for your organization, contact us.